Now, there's three important parts of your body that you need to know about to be able to understand the stress reaction. Firstly, the hypothalamus, which is the area that arrow is pointing to. Remember, I spoke about this area of the brain before the break. That's the area of the brain that's the mind-body connection. That's the area of the brain that's responsible for converting everything that goes on in our thought life into a physical reaction. And so that's where the stress reaction will start. And then that area just under the hypothalamus is called the pituitary gland. And then in your lower back, you have your kidneys. And on top of your kidneys, you have what is called adrenal glands. Now, what happens in this fight or flight stress response is a hormone called CREF is released from the hypothalamus in small quantities. Just out of interest, CRF stands for corticotropin releasing factor. Now, when I was first learning this in medical school, I can remember my friend leant over to me and he said, "It sounds like the professor's speaking in tongues." So to avoid tongue twisters for me and to avoid it being difficult for you with all these complicated medical names, we're going to make it easier and call CRF the blue hormone, which is indicated by the blue circles in the picture. Then what happens is the blue hormone travels in the brain to the pituitary gland, and it stimulates the pituitary gland to release small amounts of a chemical called ACTH, which stands for adrenocorticotropic hormone. Can you repeat that after me? Okay, I'm joking. So we'll call it the gold hormone, and that's indicated by the gold circles in the picture. Then what happens is the gold hormone travels through the bloodstream to the adrenal glands on top of your kidneys, and it stimulates the adrenal glands to release stress hormones called adrenaline and cortisol, and that's indicated by the white circles in the picture. Then what happens is the stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, cause all the changes in the body that I just described earlier that will help you survive in an emergency situation. And then once the emergency is over, the adrenaline and cortisol will go back to the brain, and it will tell the hypothalamus and pituitary gland that there's enough stress hormones in the bloodstream, and so they can stop producing the blue and gold hormones, and that whole process is called a negative feedback loop. And so then the whole process stops, and you return back to a normal, settled, peaceful state. Now, this is a positive cycle when you have short bursts of these hormones for short periods of time. Stress becomes harmful when this fight or flight stress response is consistently stimulated for too long. This then makes you shift into a poisonous state of stress, which is called the resistance stage in medical textbooks. If you shift from being alert, for example, to being angry, fearful, worried, or bitter, the hypothalamus will respond to those thoughts by producing too much of that blue hormone. Now, in large quantities, the chemical structure of that blue hormone changes, and so we'll change its color and now refer to it as the poisonous green hormone. So in excessive quantities, the blue hormone shifts from being a good hormone to a poisonous green hormone, which in science is called the chemical of negative expectation, which basically means dread. So for example, when you wake up on a Monday morning feeling dread about the week ahead, that's the chemical that's being released in your bloodstream. Now, because the chemical structure of the poisonous green hormone has changed, it stimulates the pituitary gland incorrectly, and it causes the pituitary gland to produce the gold hormone in large quantities. The gold hormone in large quantities is referred to in the medical field as the fear hormone. So that's basically fear in physical form. And it's now become a destructive hormone, and so we'll change its color to a poisonous dark hormone. Then when the adrenaline and cortisol goes back to the brain to try to tell it, hey, what's going on here? There's far too many hormones in the bloodstream. You need to stop. It's like trying to speak to somebody in a crowded room where everybody is talking. that message is drowned out by the large quantities of the poisonous green and dark hormones, and so that whole negative feedback loop is blocked, and as a result, large quantities of the stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, is produced. So now the situation is there is too much of the poisonous green hormone, there is too much of the dark hormone, and too much of the stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, that are wildly flowing throughout your whole body. You know, there's sprays that you can buy that are programmed to release a short squirt of fragrance every so often in order to make the room smell nice. But if that spray gets stuck and it sprays continuously, then that same spray would no longer cause the room to smell nice. It would be suffocating when you walk into that room because of the excess spray. And in the same way, these stress hormones in large quantities are destructive over time because God didn't design them to flow continuously in your body. They were only supposed to be there in short bursts, for example, in an emergency situation. A burst of stress is healthy and it's life-saving, but constant daily stress will put your body into a complete state of illness, mentally and physically. And so now, what God created for your benefit to help you in an emergency situation has now turned on you and become harmful to your body. For example, what happens is as the high levels of cortisol is flowing through your brain, it causes the branches of the memory trees on your nerves to do this, where they temporarily shrink so that you can't access those memories.